Rebecca Stone watched golden sunlight paint the hills of Haven's Rest through the viewport of Shepherd's Promise. 4,000 colonists slept in cryobays below while their new home waited just beyond the ship's hull. She had dreamed of this moment for 3 years, ever since the Galactic Council approved humanity's claim to this beautiful world. The planet rolled beneath them, covered in emerald forests and sapphire oceans, untouched and peaceful. Her first officer, Patrick Hayes, approached with a smile that matched her own. "Orbital insertion in 20 minutes, Captain. Should I wake the families?" he asked. Rebecca nodded, feeling her heart race with anticipation. This wasn't just a colony mission. It was humanity's chance to prove they belonged among the stars. 80 years had passed since humans first met aliens. The galaxy had welcomed them cautiously, like nervous hosts greeting unexpected guests. The Krellian Dominion ruled much of known space with an iron fist, their military strength unmatched. Other species walked carefully around Krellian territory, avoiding conflicts that couldn't be won. Humanity had followed the same path, choosing diplomacy over confrontation. The Terran Alliance maintained a modest defense fleet and focused on peaceful expansion. Haven's Rest represented everything humanity hoped to achieve. The world sat in neutral space, legally purchased through proper council channels. No territorial disputes, no competing claims, just fertile soil and open sky. Rebecca imagined children running through those forests, families building homes in those valleys, scientists studying ecosystems that had never known war. The colonists began waking. Parents held sleepy children, farmers discussed crop schedules, engineers debated power grid designs. Rebecca walked among them, shaking hands and sharing their excitement. A little girl named Amy showed her a drawing of the house she wanted to build. An elderly man named Harold spoke of finally having land to call his own. These weren't soldiers or politicians. They were ordinary people seeking extraordinary dreams. Shepherd's Promise descended through calm atmosphere. Rebecca chose a landing site beside a river where grasslands met forest edge. The ship's sensors showed no dangerous wildlife, no toxic plants, nothing to threaten their new beginning. Within hours, prefabricated structures rose from storage bays, the colonists named there. Settlement New Brisbane, after Rebecca's hometown on Earth. Days turned to weeks as the colony took shape. Farms spread across fertile plains, schools opened their doors, medical facilities began operation. Children played games near the river while adults worked with purpose and hope. Rebecca established minimal defensive systems, just enough to comply with regulations. Nobody expected trouble. Haven's Rest was protected by galactic law and common decency. Then the Krellian warship arrived. Dominator's fist emerged from dark space like a predator interrupting a family picnic. The massive vessel blocked out the sun as it settled into orbit above New Brisbane. Rebecca's communications officer received a transmission almost immediately. Commander Throck's face filled the screen, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been contempt. "Human colony, you occupy Krellian territory. Evacuate within 24 hours or face military consequences." His voice carried absolute certainty, as if questioning him was inconceivable. Rebecca felt ice form in her stomach but kept her expression calm. "Commander Throck, Haven's Rest is registered to the Terran Alliance through proper Galactic Council procedures. I have documentation proving our legal claim." She transmitted the files, hundreds of pages of approvals and surveys and legal verification. Throck barely glanced at the documents before responding. "Krellian Dominion recognizes ancient territorial rights predating your council's authority. Your papers are irrelevant. 24 hours, human. Do not test our patience." The transmission ended. Rebecca immediately contacted the Terran Alliance. Help would come, she was promised, but the nearest fleet required 3 weeks to arrive. She called the Galactic Council next. They scheduled an emergency session to discuss the situation. Discussion, debate, deliberation, while 4,000 lives hung in balance. Rebecca gathered her people. They built reinforced shelters underground, established emergency protocols, prepared for possibilities nobody wanted to consider. Some colonists asked if they should evacuate. Rebecca told them the truth. They had nowhere to go and insufficient transport even if they did. Their only choice was hoping Throck would respect some fragment of galactic law. 24 hours crawled past like wounded animals. Rebecca sent 3 more messages to Throck, each increasingly desperate. She emphasized the civilians, the children, the peaceful nature of their colony. She offered to accept council mediation. She begged for basic mercy. Throck never replied. When the deadline expired, Dominator's fist opened fire without warning. Plasma bolts turned New Brisbane's center into craters. The school exploded, killing 30 children instantly. The hospital vanished in white-hot fury. Homes that families had built with their own hands became ash and memory. Rebecca's ship tried raising shields, but Krellian weapons tore through like paper. She ordered evacuation as systems failed around her. Colonists fled into forests with whatever they could carry. Krellian dropships pursued them like hunters chasing prey. Soldiers wearing black armor moved through the trees, their weapons cutting down anyone they found. Rebecca saw Harold shot in the back while protecting his granddaughter. She watched Amy's mother die shielding her daughter with her own body. Patrick Hayes dragged Rebecca into a cave system as Shepard's promise exploded overhead. Dozens of colonists huddled in darkness, listening to screams echoing from outside. Children sobbed silently while parents tried to comfort terror that had no comfort. Rebecca held Amy close, the little girl's drawing still clutched in her small hands. For 2 days, the massacre continued. Krellian soldiers showed no mercy to those who surrendered. They laughed while hunting families. Throck broadcast messages calling humans weak and pathetic. He claimed this victory would teach lesser species their proper place. Patrick managed to reach a hidden communications array on the 3rd day. He recorded everything with shaking hands. The burning town, the bodies, the casual cruelty. He captured Throck's voice mocking human weakness. With his last strength, Patrick transmitted it all to every human world he could reach before Krellian soldiers found him. The footage reached Earth 17 hours later. 300 billion people watched New Brisbane burn. They saw children murdered and families destroyed. They heard Throck laugh about human inferiority. Something fundamental broke in humanity's collective consciousness. Earth's parliament voted for war in 4 minutes. Every representative said yes. No debate, no discussion, just fury channeled into purpose. Retired generals received activation orders. Shipyards began running every shift around the clock. Volunteers. Overwhelmed recruitment centers. In her cave on Haven's Rest, Rebecca Stone held Amy and listened to orbital bombardment finally cease. Of 4,000 colonists, perhaps 300 survived. She wondered if humanity would remember them. She wondered if anyone would care. She didn't know that Throck had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. He had crossed a line humanity would never forgive. The Terran Alliance broadcast a simple message to every species in known space. You should never have provoked humanity. The line was crossed. War has begun. Supreme Leader Vorgath dismissed the report about Haven's Rest with barely a glance. His palace on Krelter stretched toward the sky, a monument to Krellian dominance built from the tribute of conquered worlds. The matter of some human colony seemed trivial compared to managing an empire spanning 40 systems. Commander Throck had handled a minor territorial dispute. Nothing more warranted attention. The humans threatened retaliation, his intelligence minister reported cautiously. Vorgath's laugh echoed through the throne room. Let them threaten. They are a young species playing at civilization, one human colony destroyed, and they speak of war. He waved a clawed hand dismissively. Increase border patrols if it concerns you. These mammals will quiet down once they understand reality. 3,000 light-years away, that reality was being rewritten. Admiral David Park stood before the largest gathering of human military vessels in history. 200 warships filled the space around Mars, each one gleaming with fresh construction. Workers had built them in 70 days, an impossible timeline made possible by billions of people working with singular focus. Every ship bore the name of someone who died at New Brisbane. The flagship carried a name that would haunt Krellian nightmares, New Brisbane itself. Park addressed his crews through holographic transmission. We did not choose this war. War was brought to us when families seeking peace were murdered, when children playing in fields were hunted like animals. His voice remained steady despite the fury beneath. We will show the Krellian Dominion what happens when humanity's line is crossed, not through cruelty, not through massacre, but through absolute determination. The crews understood. They had all seen the footage. Every human alive had watched New Brisbane burn. The images were seared into collective memory like brands. Little Amy's body found still clutching her drawing. Harold's last act of defiance. Patrick Hayes' final transmission. These weren't abstract casualties. They were neighbors, friends, family. Earth's industrial capacity had transformed overnight. Factories producing ground vehicles now assembled tanks. Shipyards that built commercial freighters crafted destroyers. Manufacturing centers operated 20 hours daily, workers refusing to go home. Production increased 400% in 2 weeks. Other species observed this transformation with growing unease. The Saurian Confederacy sent Ambassador Rithkal to the Galactic Council with warnings. I have studied human history. Their conflicts make our wars seem like minor disagreements. They have killed hundreds of millions of their own kind. Imagine what they will do to species that murder their children. Most council members dismissed his concerns. Humans seemed peaceful, almost passive in galactic affairs. They didn't understand that humanity's peace came from choice, not weakness. Human special forces had already infiltrated deep into Krellian space. Teams of operators moved through shadows, mapping installations and defense networks. They planted listening devices, recruited informants, prepared sabotage. All of this happened silently while Vorgath celebrated Throck's victory. Admiral Park reviewed the targeting data. 47 Krellian military installations would be hit simultaneously. Supply depots, shipyards, communication arrays, fuel reserves. Every target carefully chosen to cripple Krellian military capability without harming civilians. The plan demonstrated something Krellians had never valued: precision. Admiral, some of our ships won't survive this campaign, his tactical officer warned. Park nodded slowly. I know, they know too. Every crew volunteered. Every captain understands the cost. He looked at the tactical display showing Krellian space. But we will show them that attacking humanity has consequences. The attack began at 0300 Galactic Standard Time. Krellian Outpost Sigma-7 was monitoring human space when stealth ships emerged from dark space. The outpost commander had time to send one panicked message before railgun rounds tore through defensive shields. 12 minutes later, the outpost was debris. 500 Krellian soldiers died never understanding what hit them. Across Krellian territory, 46 other installations experienced identical fates. Supply depots exploded in brilliant fireballs. Shipyards collapsed as support structures were severed with surgical precision. Communication arrays went dark as human hackers seized control and shut them down. The Krellian military command structure descended into chaos. Vorgath received reports with increasing alarm. How is this possible? Where did humans acquire such capability? Our intelligence said they were unprepared for war. His generals had no answers. Human forces had struck from nowhere, coordinated perfectly, and vanished like ghosts. Worse, every attack site received the same transmission. The broadcast showed images from Haven's Rest. Children dying, families burning, Throck laughing, then a simple message. You started this. We will finish it. The transmission played on repeat, ensuring every Krellian soldier understood why humans were coming. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Species that had ignored Haven's Rest now demanded answers about human aggression. The Terran Alliance representatives stood calmly before their judgment. We asked for help. You offered discussions. We requested justice. You scheduled debates. Now we take action. His words silenced the chamber. Vorgath authorized total military mobilization. 300 ships were ordered to defend the Forge Worlds, the industrial heart of Krellian power. Commander Throck received promotion and fleet command. His victory at Haven's Rest considered proof of tactical brilliance. He boasted that he would destroy the human fleet and then burn Earth itself. Admiral Park's forces reached the Forge system 1 week after the first strikes. His 200 ships faced Throck's 300. The numbers favored Krellians. Traditional tactics favored Krellians. Everything except determination favored Krellians. Human ships had been built differently than Krellian vessels. Where Krellians prioritized speed and firepower, humans emphasized durability and redundancy. Every critical system had backups. Every compartment could be sealed independently. Crews trained to fight while half their ship was destroyed. This philosophy seemed inefficient to species that expected clean victories. They would learn otherwise. The two fleets faced each other across empty space. Throck broadcast a message mocking human vessels as clumsy. Boxes that barely fly. He promised quick victory and total destruction. Admiral Park responded with silence. Words meant nothing now, only actions mattered. Throck gave the order. His fleet surged forward. Park waited 3 seconds, letting Krellian ships commit to their trajectory. Then he spoke 2 words: open fire. Space erupted in violence. Railgun rounds traveled at relativistic speeds, striking Krellian shields with devastating force. Krellian plasma cannons burned through human armor, melting metal and flesh. Ships on both sides exploded as weapons found vulnerable points. Within minutes, dozens of vessels became expanding clouds of debris. A human destroyer took catastrophic damage, its entire port side torn away. The Krellian commander targeting it moved to finish the kill. He expected the crippled ship to retreat or surrender. Instead, it accelerated directly toward his cruiser. The human captain's final transmission was simple: for New Brisbane. Both ships vanished in nuclear fire. Throck watched in disbelief as damaged human vessels continued fighting. Ships that should have been abandoned kept firing. Crews that should have surrendered fought until their reactors failed. This wasn't warfare as Krellians understood it. This was something primal and terrifying. Admiral Park observed the battle from New Brisbane's bridge. His ship shook under Krellian fire, systems failing one by one. His crew maintained their posts without hesitation. They had all seen the footage. They all knew why they fought. "Sir, we have casualties on decks 5 through 7, port weapons offline, shield generators at 30%. The damage reports came steadily. Park acknowledged each one calmly. "Continue firing. Target their command ships. We're not here to survive, we're here to win." The battle raged for 4 hours, space filled with wreckage from both sides. Human ships absorbed terrible damage but refused to break. Krellian forces fought with skill but growing unease. These humans wouldn't quit, wouldn't retreat, wouldn't surrender. As the 5th hour began, something fundamental shifted. The human line held where it should have shattered. Debris from destroyed ships drifted through space like metal snowflakes. Commander Throck's tactical display showed numbers that should have guaranteed victory becoming numbers that promised disaster. His 300 ships had been reduced to 180. Human forces that started with 200 now fielded 90 operational vessels. Mathematics said Krellians still held advantage. Reality told a different story. "Commander, the human destroyer Sergeant Harold is disabled and drifting." His tactical officer reported what should have been good news. Throck watched the crippled vessel tumble through space, trailing atmosphere and debris. According to doctrine, it was finished. He ordered 2 frigates to destroy it and move on. The destroyer's reactor suddenly flared. Emergency thrusters fired. The disabled ship corrected its tumble and brought weapons to bear. Railguns that shouldn't have had power fired at point-blank range, catching both Krellian frigates by surprise. All 3 ships exploded within seconds. "How?" Throck demanded. "How are they still fighting?" Nobody had answers. Human ships fought like wounded animals that didn't understand they were dying. Vessels with hull breaches maintained fire. Crews in decompressed sections continued operations. Damage that would force Krellian surrender seemed to only make humans more determined. Admiral Park studied his own tactical display with grim satisfaction. Human ships were dying, but they were taking Krellians with them. More importantly, they were holding the line. Order third wave to penetrate toward the Forge worlds. It's time to show them why we came here. 30 human ships broke from the main battle. They charged directly into concentrated Krellian fire, accepting catastrophic damage to reach their objective. Throck recognized the maneuver as suicidal. He ordered his reserves to intercept. Stop them. They cannot reach the planet. But humans had learned warfare in Earth's bloodiest conflicts. They understood sacrifice. 12 ships created a defensive screen, drawing fire while the other 18 pushed through. The 12 were annihilated within minutes. The 18 reached Forge World Prime's orbital space. Colonel Rachel Brooks commanded the Marine Assault Force. Her dropships launched from the 18 carriers, racing toward the planet's surface through defensive fire. Anti-aircraft batteries tracked their approach. Automated defense systems engaged. Half the dropships exploded before reaching atmosphere. Brooks' ship hit ground hard near the primary manufacturing complex. Her Marines poured out into Krellian defensive fire. The manufacturing center sprawled across 50 square kilometers, producing 60% of Krellian military hardware. Destroying it would cripple their war machine for years. Move fast, hit hard, don't stop. Brooks led from the front, her assault rifle cutting down automated sentries. Her Marines advanced using tactics refined through centuries of human warfare. They used cover effectively, they coordinated fire. They adapted to Krellian defenses in real time. Krellian ground forces responded with overwhelming numbers. They were physically stronger than humans, their weapons more powerful. But they fought like soldiers who expected enemies to retreat. Humans fought like parents avenging murdered children. Sergeant Robert Stone held a corridor for 3 hours. His squad was pinned down by Krellian heavy weapons. Retreat was the logical choice. Instead, Stone organized a fighting withdrawal that allowed other Marines to advance. When asked later why he didn't fall back, he said simply, "My sister died at New Brisbane. I'm not going anywhere." Above the planet, the space battle reached its climax. Admiral Park identified the Krellian flagship and committed his remaining heavy cruisers to a direct assault. "All ships, concentrate fire on Dominator's fist. That's where Throck is hiding. Let's send him a message." The human cruiser Unity led the charge. Krellian plasma cannons burned through its armor, melting deck after deck. The captain maintained course even as his bridge depressurized. When weapons failed, he ordered ramming speed. Unity smashed into Dominator's fist at thousands of meters per second. Both ships were crippled. Throck survived in a sealed command bunker. He listened to damage reports with growing horror. Unity's crew had survived impact and was fighting through his ship with small arms. Human Marines moved from compartment to compartment, engaging in close combat. His soldiers kept reporting that humans wouldn't stop, wouldn't surrender, kept coming no matter how many fell. On the planet's surface, Colonel Brooks reached the manufacturing core. Massive foundries stretched in every direction, producing weapons that would kill more humans. She placed demolition charges with precision learned from Earth's military academies. "Everyone out. We have 3 minutes." Her Marines retreated toward extraction points. Krellian forces surrounded them. Brooks did a quick count. 23 Marines left from her original force of 300. The charges would detonate in 2 minutes. Their extraction ships were destroyed. Mathematics said they were trapped. "Colonel, we can't make it out." Her sergeant stated the obvious. Brooks looked at her remaining Marines. They were young, barely older than the children who died at New Brisbane. She wanted to order them to surrender. The words wouldn't come. "Anyone who wants to try escaping, go now. I won't order you to stay." She expected at least some to run. Every single Marine stayed. One young private spoke for all of them. "We didn't come here to go home, ma'am. We came here to make them pay." The manufacturing core exploded with the force of a small nuclear weapon. The blast was visible from orbit. Forge World Prime's industrial capacity was destroyed in seconds. Colonel Brooks and her 23 Marines died instantly. Their sacrifice crippled the Krellian war machine. Throck saw the explosion from his damaged flagship. He understood finally what he faced. These humans didn't fight for territory or resources. They fought with fury of a species defending its young. They would accept any loss, endure any sacrifice, to make Krellians pay for Haven's rest. "All ships retreat!" His voice cracked as he gave the order. Surviving Krellian vessels fled the system. Human ships were too damaged to pursue. Both fleets had been devastated. But Forge World Prime belonged to humanity now. Admiral Park walked through New Brisbane's damaged corridors. Medical teams treated wounded. Repair crews patched hull breaches. The dead were prepared for burial. Of his original 200 ships, 87 could still fight. 54 were total losses. Thousands of crew members would never go home. He visited the medical bay where wounded Marines from Forge World Prime were being treated. Only 47 had survived the surface assault from the original 300. A young private looked up at him with exhausted eyes. "Did we get it, sir? Did we destroy the manufacturing center?" Park nodded. "Colonel Brooks completed the mission. You all did." The private smiled and closed his eyes. "Good. Make sure people remember them, all of them." Across the galaxy, species watched footage of the battle. They saw human determination. They witnessed sacrifice beyond their understanding. The Saurian ambassador's warnings suddenly seemed inadequate. Humanity wasn't just willing to fight. They were willing to die to achieve their objectives. The Galactic Council held another emergency session. The Pelthian representative proposed immediate intervention to stop the war. The Saurian ambassador responded with cold logic. "You had the chance to intervene when Throck massacred civilians. You chose discussion. Now humans are choosing action. Perhaps you should have listened when it mattered." Supreme Leader Vorgath received reports of the disaster at Forge System. His military had lost its industrial base and a major fleet. Worse, human determination had shaken Krellian morale. Soldiers who fought humans spread stories of enemies who never quit. He faced a choice: negotiate or escalate. Pride made his decision. He would show these upstart humans the full might of the Krellian dominion. If conventional warfare couldn't break them, he would use methods civilized species avoided. Chemical weapons, biological warfare, anything necessary to prove Krellian superiority. Admiral Park set course for the next target. The war was far from over. Green Valley had been humanity's breadbasket. Vast agricultural fields stretched across 3 continents, feeding 40 other human colonies. Children grew up riding combines through wheat fields. Farmers talked about soil composition and weather patterns. It was the most peaceful of human worlds, far from any conflict zone. When the plague hit, nobody understood at first. Crops withered overnight. Livestock collapsed in fields. The engineered disease spread faster than any natural pathogen. Within a week, Green Valley's entire agricultural output was destroyed. Within 2 weeks, people began starving. The bioweapon didn't kill humans directly. It killed everything they needed to survive. 3 million colonists faced slow death. Emergency aid from other worlds helped but couldn't feed everyone. Riots broke out as food supplies dwindled. Parents watched children grow thin. The strong stole from the weak. Civilization crumbled under the weight of desperation. Intelligence traced the bioweapon to Krellian laboratories. Supreme Leader Vorgath had authorized its use personally. When confronted by the Galactic Council, he showed no remorse. War has no rules when fighting savages. Humans started this. We will end it by any means necessary. The footage from Green Valley reached Earth. Images of starving children fighting over scraps, dying slowly. It was Haven's rest in slow motion. The Alliance Parliament received billions of demands for total war. Some called for orbital bombardment of Krellian civilian centers. Others demanded biological retaliation. Admiral Park received authorization to target Krellian infrastructure. The order specifically mentioned civilian facilities. He read it 3 times before responding. "Negative, we don't kill civilians, that's what separates us from them." His refusal became public within hours. The galaxy watched humanity's choice. They had every justification for revenge, every reason to match Krellian brutality. Instead, Admiral Park maintained strict rules of engagement, only military targets. Verify no civilian presence. Accept no collateral damage. Some species called it weakness. Others recognized it as strength of a different kind. Human fleets pushed deeper into Krellian space. 4 separate task forces operated independently, each winning system after system. Admiral Lisa Wang's Second Fleet cut supply lines. Third Fleet under Commander Rachel Foster liberated enslaved species. Fourth Fleet performed deep strike raids, and Park's First Fleet drove toward the Krellian homeworld. The Pelthian species had suffered under Krellian rule for 30 years. Their mining colonies provided resources for the Dominion's war machine. When Commander Foster's fleet arrived at Dust Haven, Pelthian slaves expected new masters. Instead, humans offered freedom. Foster walked through the mining complex personally. Pelthian workers watched her with confusion. "You're free to go. We've disabled the control collars. Transport ships will take you wherever you want." She spoke through translators, her words simple and direct. A young Pelthian named Quillix approached cautiously. "What do you want in return? The Krellians always wanted tribute." Foster smiled sadly. "We want nothing. You've suffered enough. Go home, rebuild, live free." Quillix couldn't comprehend it. In his experience, stronger species always dominated weaker ones. "Why do humans fight if not for conquest?" Foster's expression hardened. "Because the Krellians killed our children, because some lines should never be crossed, because someone has to stop them." Within weeks, liberated Pelthian colonies offered alliance with humanity. Their leaders had witnessed human compassion firsthand. They provided staging bases and intelligence. Other species began quietly supporting human forces. The galaxy was choosing sides, and most chose against the Krellians. Supreme Leader Vorgath watched his empire crumble. 4 months ago, the Krellian Dominion controlled 40 systems. Now it barely held 20. His military was shattered. His allies were abandoning him. Even his own people questioned his leadership. Desperation drove him to final measures. "Fortify Krelter. Bring every remaining ship to defend the homeworld. If humans want war, we'll give them a battle they cannot win." He ordered the home fleet to prepare. 400 ships, the last great concentration of Krellian military power. Human First and Second Fleets converged on Krelter. Admiral Park commanded 300 vessels. Admiral Wang brought 200 more. Facing them was the largest defensive network in Krellian space. Orbital platforms, minefields, energy shields, and the home fleet itself. The battle would be devastating. Park broadcast a final offer before attacking. "Supreme Leader Vorgath, surrender. Face trial for war crimes. Dismantle your military. This can end today without more death." He expected refusal, but protocol demanded the attempt. Vorgath's response dripped with contempt. "You are insects pretending to be predators. Krelter will never fall. Come and die, humans. We'll hang your bodies from our towers." The transmission ended. The choice was made. Park gave civilian ships 24 hours to evacuate. Thousands of Krellian transports fled the system. Human ships tracked them but never fired. This mercy confused Krellian military commanders. Why show kindness to enemy civilians? Some began questioning Vorgath's propaganda about human savagery. When the deadline expired, 500 human ships engaged Krellian defenses. The battle dwarfed previous conflicts. Orbital platforms fired antimatter warheads. Human ships deployed countermeasures and absorbed hits that would have destroyed lesser vessels. Space around Krelter became a storm of energy and debris. The Krellian home fleet fought with desperate fury. They knew defeat meant their government's end. Human forces pressed forward with relentless determination. Ships were destroyed on both sides. Casualties mounted into thousands. Neither side would yield. Deep beneath Krelter's surface, human special forces moved through maintenance tunnels. Captain Ann Wilson led a team of infiltrators who had entered the system weeks earlier. Their target, planetary. Shield generators, destroying them would allow orbital assault. Failure meant thousands more deaths in space. Wilson's team fought through automated defenses and Krellian security. They lost 2 operators reaching the generator complex. The remaining team placed shaped charges with precision. Charges set. Detonation in 60 seconds, Wilson reported to Admiral Park. The planetary shields collapsed as generators exploded. Krellian defenders on the surface scrambled to restore protection. Without shields, their cities were vulnerable. Park could have bombarded civilian centers. Instead, he targeted government facilities and military installations with surgical precision. General Rothak had commanded Krellian forces at 3 battles against humans. He'd witnessed their determination firsthand. He'd seen them fight with honor while Vorgath authorized atrocities. He made a decision that would have been unthinkable months ago. Rothak gathered loyal officers and confronted Vorgath in the command center. "This war is lost. You've destroyed our honor. Surrender before more Krellians die for your pride." Vorgath's response was predictable. He ordered guards to arrest Rothak for treason. Civil conflict erupted in Krelter's capital. Rothak's forces fought Vorgath's loyalists. The dictator fled to a bunker complex, protected by 200 fanatical guards. He activated doomsday weapons, threatening to devastate the entire planet rather than accept defeat. Rothak contacted Admiral Park directly. "I offer surrender on behalf of the Krellian military. Vorgath has gone insane. He'll destroy us all rather than lose. Help us end this." Park accepted the surrender but couldn't assault the bunker without triggering planetary weapons. For 3 days, negotiations stalled. Vorgath demanded impossible terms. Park couldn't risk millions of Krellian civilian lives. The galaxy watched, wondering if humanity would sacrifice victory to protect enemy civilians. Some species thought humans foolish. Others recognized unprecedented honor. Then a transmission came from inside the bunker. A young Krellian soldier named Roth appeared on screen. "I can open a passage. Too many have died for one leader's ego. Come quickly before he discovers my betrayal." The screen went dark. Park assembled his best operators. "We go in fast, capture Vorgath alive. He faces trial, not execution." Roth led human special forces through passages. He discovered during months of bunker duty. The young Krellian soldier had watched Haven's Rest footage 100 times. He'd seen Vorgath laugh about the massacre. Something fundamental had broken in his loyalty. "This way, his guards don't patrol here." Captain Ann Wilson followed with her team. They'd fought across half the galaxy to reach this moment. Behind them, the war waited for resolution. Ahead, a dictator cowered in luxury while his people suffered consequences of his decisions. "How many guards in the throne room?" Wilson asked. 20, all fanatics who die for him," Roth answered. "But the planetary weapons, he has dead man switches throughout the complex. If his vital signs stop, the planet dies." Wilson nodded grimly. They needed Vorgath alive and conscious. The assault team reached the throne room through side corridors. Vorgath sat on an ornate chair, surrounded by guards in ceremonial armor, weapons charged as humans entered. For a moment, no one moved. Then Vorgath laughed. "So the mammals finally arrive, come to beg for mercy." Admiral Park entered the room last, unarmed. "Surrender. Your military has capitulated. Your government is dissolved. This bunker is all you have left." Vorgath's expression twisted. "You think you've won? I can destroy this entire planet with a thought. Kill me and billions die." Park sat down across from the dictator. "You could, but you won't." Vorgath's confusion was obvious. "And why wouldn't I? You've taken everything." "Because deep down you know your people don't deserve death for your mistakes," Park spoke calmly. "You started this war, you authorized the massacres, you approved the bioweapons, but the Krellian people, they're just trying to survive. You won't kill them because even you aren't that cruel." The logic struck Vorgath harder than any weapon. He'd built his entire identity on strength and dominance. Now a human showed him the weakness in his final threat. "You know nothing about Krellian honor." His voice lacked conviction. "I know about honor," Park responded. "I've seen humans die protecting enemy civilians. I've watched my crews show mercy when revenge would have been easier. I've held dying soldiers who gave everything to maintain our principles. That's honor. What you've done, that's just murder hiding behind military necessity." Vorgath's guards shifted uncomfortably. They'd heard stories about human behavior in combat. The mercy shown to prisoners, the protection of civilians, the refusal to use bioweapons even in retaliation. It contradicted everything they'd been told about savage mammals. Final offer, Park stood. Surrender, face trial, let your people rebuild, or activate your weapons and prove you're exactly what I think you are. A coward who'd rather destroy everything than accept consequences. The silence stretched. Vorgath's hand hovered over controls. One press would devastate Krelter, kill billions, end any possibility of recovery. His guards watched their leader with something new in their eyes, doubt. Stand down, Vorgath's voice was barely a whisper. I surrender. His guards lowered weapons. The war was over. General Rothak took custody of Vorgath. The transition was peaceful. Krellian forces across the galaxy laid down arms. Human fleets held position, ready to respond to treachery but hoping for peace. 8 months of warfare ended not with explosions but with signed documents. The Galactic Council established war crimes tribunals. Vorgath faced justice for Haven's Rest, Green Valley, and dozens of other atrocities. Commander Throck was captured trying to flee and joined him in custody. Evidence was presented methodically. Testimonies from survivors, recordings of orders, proof of deliberate civilian targeting. Vorgath showed no remorse during trial. I did what was necessary to maintain Krellian dominance. Weaker species exist to serve the strong. These humans proved stronger. That's the only lesson here. The judges found him guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment rather than execution. Even war criminals deserved justice, not revenge. Rebecca Stone returned to Haven's Rest 1 year after the massacre. Reconstruction had begun with help from multiple species. Humans, Krellians, Saurians, and Pelthians worked together. The ruins of New Brisbane were being rebuilt. A memorial listed every victim's name. Little Amy had survived. She'd lost her parents but found new family among other survivors. When Rebecca asked what she wanted for the memorial, Amy said simply, "Something so people never forget, so this never happens again." The memorial became a massive wall of names, visible from orbit. The war changed galactic politics fundamentally. The Terran Alliance gained permanent representation on the Galactic Council. Species that had ignored Haven's Rest now sought human friendship. Fear motivated some. Respect motivated others. Humanity demonstrated that power paired with principle created true strength. General Rothak led democratic reforms in Krellian space. The Dominion was dissolved. Free elections were held. Young Krellians learned about Vorgath's crimes and their consequences. Roth became a symbol of moral courage. His decision to help humans end the war inspired a generation. Quillix represented the Pelthian clans in a new coalition. Freed species formed the Liberation Alliance with humanity. The Saurians joined as full partners. Even reformed Krellian worlds were offered membership. The Alliance became the largest peaceful organization in galactic history. Admiral Park retired from military service. He accepted appointment as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. His first act was proposing the Haven's Rest Accord. It prohibited targeting civilians under any circumstances. Violations would trigger immediate unified response. Every species signed. The accord was named to ensure no one forgot why it existed. 5 years after the war, Park spoke at Haven's Rest Memorial. Thousands attended. Humans, Krellians, Pelthians, dozens of species. We didn't choose this war, his voice carried across the gathered crowd. But we chose how to fight it. We showed that strength without mercy is not strength at all. We proved that defending the innocent is worth any sacrifice. And we demonstrated that even in war, humanity never loses its humanity. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Young people of every species learned about the line that was crossed. They studied what happened when humanity responded. Teachers used it as an example. Diplomats referenced it in negotiations. Haven's Rest became synonymous with consequences of aggression. New Brisbane thrived again. The town was larger than before. Human and alien families lived side by side. Children played in parks where battles had raged. Schools taught cooperation instead of conquest. The memorial stood at the center, names glowing in eternal remembrance. Rebecca Stone often sat at the memorial. She'd survived the massacre, the war, and the peace that followed. A young Krellian child approached her one day. "Why are the names carved in stone?" the child asked innocently. Rebecca smiled sadly. "So we never forget the cost of crossing certain lines. So we remember that every name represents a life, a family, a dream that was." "Stolen," the child considered this carefully. "What lines, what do you mean?" "The line between right and wrong," Rebecca explained. "Between civilization and barbarism, the line that protects the innocent. When Vorgath crossed that line at Haven's Rest, he learned humanity would fight to defend it. Not with cruelty, but with determination. Not with revenge, but with justice." The child nodded, processing wisdom beyond their years. "My teacher says humans changed the galaxy." Rebecca looked at the memorial at the names of people she'd known. "The galaxy changed itself. We just showed them what happens when you provoke a species that values life. Humanity's response wasn't about vengeance. It was about making sure this never happens again." Years passed, the memorial became a pilgrimage site. Beings from hundreds of worlds visited to pay respects. They learned about Haven's Rest. They understood the warning it represented. New species joining the galactic community received one consistent message: humanity values peace but will fight to protect the innocent. The war's lessons spread through diplomatic channels, military academies, and civilian education. Other species adopted human concepts. Proportional response became doctrine. Civilian protection became law. War crime tribunals became standard. The galaxy grew more civilized through humanity's example. In her final years, Rebecca Stone watched New Brisbane celebrate its 10th anniversary of Reconstruction. The town had become a symbol, proof that civilization could recover from tragedy, that peace could emerge from war, that different species could coexist. She'd lived to see justice, reconciliation, and hope. The memorial stood eternal, names carved deep, sunlight painting them gold at dawn, moonlight casting them in silver at night. 3,847 names, 3,847 reasons, 3,847 reminders that some lines should never be crossed. The galaxy learned, you should never have provoked humanity.